Hey everybody, Kat here. Welcome to my channel. Hope you're having a great day. It's Monday morning, and I thought what we would do today is a follow-up on my previous video, Who is Simon Durante-Day? Because I thought it was compelling enough, and this story's going to play out over time. This isn't the first time we've heard of Simon, and I dare say it won't be the last. We're gonna look at his claims, his strategy, and we're gonna speculate about the outcomes. So that's what we're doing today. Now, just a brief recap. Simon Durante-Day is an Australian man in his 50s who claims that he is the son of Prince Charles and Camilla Parker Bowles when they were teenagers. Charles was 17 at the time and Camilla was 18. Now, he claims that he was adopted by a friend of someone on the Queen's payroll. Somebody at the palace, anyway, a friend of theirs adopted. He grew up in Australia. Now, he's got photographs, he's got quite a story, he truly believes this. Someone along the way must have told him this or put it in his head, not something you think about. So there's got to be some nugget there that was the impetus to all of this. And I mean, there is a resemblance if you do look at the photographs closely, but all that notwithstanding, recently he did an interview with News 7 Digital, something like that, a digital news channel in Australia, and talking about this and what his plans for the future were. And I think rather foolishly, considering what he's trying to do, trying to prove, he kind of outlined he gave his game away. And this is, you don't tell your adversary your war plans. We know he has said that he wants to obtain a DNA sample and that he has, I presume, written to Prince Harry asking Harry if he would supply a sample. Now, I've had people say to me, well, what happens if it's true that Harry isn't Charles's son, whether he is Major Hewitt's son or whether he is James Francis Alexander? Refer to my very first video, Who's Your Daddy? We talked about this as well. You know, what happens if there's no paternal tie between Charles and Harry, even if Harry were to supply a sample or meet this guy, right? Supply a sample. Now, you know, and then it wouldn't show a connection if Harry indeed is not the son of Charles. Now, he would be better to try to get a sample from say, Thomas Parker Bowles, Camilla's son, because we do know that those markers go down the maternal pathway. So he would have a better chance of a more accurate match if he could get a hold of the DNA of one of her children. But I mean, for that, you know, people aren't gonna wanna, first of all, they don't want to entertain the thought. So, I mean, that's just right out the window. And secondly, they don't want to engage with people that just come out of the woodwork making claims. It's usually not a smart thing to do. So the chances, I think, of him obtaining a DNA sample in that way, you know, he had said that Harry hadn't responded to him yet. He was waiting to hear. I don't think... Now, we do know, as I've stated in my videos about Harry and the subject of his lineage, paternity, Harry has questioned this himself, of course, having heard it all his life. As recently as 2017, there was an author who wrote a book in America, and he was having a heck of a time. You could get it off his website. A heck of a time even keeping it on Amazon. They kept burying the book, and it was not available for sale in Britain. I mean, the same things we've talked before, how, and same as like with James Alexander's book, James Francis Alexander's book did so well in the first week, and then they absolutely squashed it. And we know, just even in recent times, how the British press won't publish some things about the royal family that countries around the world will. So, you know, Britain kind of loses out. Their information is censored in Britain in a way that they can, to a degree, try to control things worldwide, but not quite as effectively. So you've got this situation. Well, this author wrote this book regarding Diana and regarding primarily the manner in which she died and his views on all that compared to the official narrative, right? And they differed greatly. And he's not the only one that's written a book. But anyway, he had said in an interview that Harry had been on his website, he had been searching, he had been listening to things. He also wanted to talk to Harry, but at that point, he had not reached out to Harry, and nor had Harry reached out to him. But we do know that Harry has been searching for answers around his own paternity, searching for answers around the manner of his mother's death. Harry's, you know, crazy as a bag of bats, and we know it, but even he doesn't believe the narrative. So would he believe this guy Simon Durante-Day coming to him and saying, you know, we could sort this out if you provide a DNA sample? I don't think Harry wants to get embroiled in anything else. He's got enough stuff going on. I don't think it would work now. And I don't think, even though it would probably be a better chance for a more accurate match, to try to get a DNA sample from one of Camilla's children, I don't think that would happen either, because out of the blue, if they heard this guy contacted them, of course they would talk to Camilla. She would say no, whether it's true or not, whether she knew he was her son or not, she would say no. Royals don't engage in that kind of everything, and you never give in to those kinds of demands or requests, because you don't have to, because you're royal. And they don't want that kind of embarrassment. And now back to Simon. So this is step 1. He's contacted Harry. He wants a DNA sample. Step 2. What he's hoping, and he laid this all out in the interview. It is being talked about now that Charles and Camilla will be making a trip to Australia, either later this year or sometime 2025. It's in the planning. I mean, of course, it all hinges on his treatment and his health, but it's in the planning now. These things, they have to start planning months and months, a year ahead. So it's already in the works, and they've already talked about it. Charles has expressed expressed real anticipation of going to Australia. He wants to go. Now, what Simon Durante-Day said in the interview, he said, well, once I've got Charles in my jurisdiction, meaning on Australian soil, he plans to act. And by that I mean, I guess, serve him with papers, family court, like, prove to me you're not my father, taking him to God. But here's the problem with that. First of all, you can't take the sovereign to court. You can, other members of the royal family, as we've seen, but you can't sue the sovereign. He indeed is the head of the court, His Majesty's court. Australia, he's the head of state in Australia as well. So he's the head of the courts, head of the law there. You can't even accuse the sovereign of something in a court of law. You can't do it. So the chances of Simon getting Charles in a court to answer to these accusations, these claims, is nil. It's never going to happen. Never going to happen. So what happens to Simon? Well, and the thing is, too, even if it could happen, even if, let's say, you could sue the sovereign, there was a chance that Simon could get him into court, he's given his whole game away, like a year in advance. You don't think they're going to make sure this guy gets nowhere near Charles? Of course. So he was foolish that way of giving, he wanted to give the interview, sure, but to give away your whole game plan a year in advance, well, and it's flawed. I've gone over just now how flawed his plan is, and I mean, I don't know if there's a way that you could prove it. But like I've said before, my very first interview, Who's Your Daddy? James Francis Alexander, his claims in his book, and the way that he poked at Charles and what happened to him, is all quite compelling. If there was nothing to the story, how'd it turn out like it did with James Francis Alexander's very suspicious death? Makes you think. makes you think. If you get a little bit too close to the crown, maybe, you're jeopardizing your health. And, they've got at least a year before Charles shows up in Australia. That's a lot of time to lose a person. Or shut a person up. Depends too, is Simon going to give more interviews? Is he going to play this up? What's going to happen next? Are we going to hear more from him? But given his claims and given what he said and given his action plan, he's a guy that not only I'm watching, he's a guy that Pellis is watching. He's a guy the government is watching. He's a guy MI5 is watching. His Majesty's Secret Service. They don't let people like that get close to the king. The only one that ever did was James Francis Alexander, and look what happened to him. So it's a story to watch. Just thought I'd follow up and give my few more thoughts on the subject. And this is something to keep an eye out if his name pops up again. Have a great day, everybody. Like, subscribe, leave me a comment. I'd love to know what you're thinking about all of this, and we will see you in the next one. Have a great day, everybody.